So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let us invite our panel for today. First and foremost, please welcome, previously was known as Professor. Now, please welcome Dr. Azmi Hassan, fellow Malaysian National Council of Professor University Technology Malaysia, UTM. Please welcome Dr. Azmi. Where are you, Dr. Azmi? There you are. He drove all the way from Kuala Lumpur, ladies and gentlemen, this morning, mashallah. Next, I would like to invite Chief Economist Bank Muamalat Malaysia Berhad, Dr. Muhammad Auzani Abdul Rashid. Please welcome. And nonetheless, Associate Professor Dr. Ahmad Razman, MBA Program Director, Putra Business School. Please welcome. All right. Dr. Sihat, Dr. Azmi, Dr. Okay? Alhamdulillah. Welcome to Johor and welcome to JCOM. Alhamdulillah. Our format will be very simple, ladies and gentlemen. It will begin with a presentation by each and every of our panel, and we will have our question from the audience, whereas we believe in Article 10 of the Federal Constitution. Freedom of expression, and of course, within respect. So, after the presentation, we will we will show the QR code where you will ask your questions via Slido, right? So you may scan the QR code and you may post your question, and inshallah, I will explain. Testing. Okay, so who will start first? Dr. Zanizam. So the floor is yours. Are you ready? Okay, this will be the clicker. The biggest button will be forward. The smaller button. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's give a round of applause to Dr. Zanizam. Please welcome.
Assalamualaikum and very good morning, everyone. Thank you for spending your time with us. And I really hope that my sharing session this morning will be beneficial to you. I've been listening to JKK, Datuk Syed, speech. You talk about Johor economic prospects and so actionable ideas. And I certainly hope that this session will be beneficial to you guys. Okay, okay, how shall I do this?
Can you present the slide? Right.
Okay, can you go to the slide, please? So basically, I want to walk you through what economists think about the. Okay. So basically, the key point I want to take to share with you about how do we see the economy going forward. Obviously, one is there is an uneven growth trajectory going on at the moment. Yeah, be it in the G7 space, be it within ASEAN, and this has actually presented a quite key challenging dilemma from policymakers, and perhaps this also can be a catalyst for further divergence in terms of geopolitics. So we can see that in terms of the GDP growth within the G7 economies, the US is thriving. You can see that their economy is growing above 2%. For G7 advanced economies, if they can grow at 2%, that is fantastic. And you can see why, Fed, the Federal Reserve, the central bank, has been, diligent in terms of how to steer the monetary policy so that it can, ensure that their dual mandate can be met, which is price stability and also the maximum employment. But again, their counterparts in the European economies, I think they have been struggling. Their reliance on NATO in terms of military spending, taking a backfire right now, and their energy reliance from Russia previously is also another key point to note. And I think the recent discussion between the US and Russia without European in the picture also present another challenges. But in this region, in the ASEAN region, story, the growth has been quite promising. Yes, China is taking a step to restructure the economy. I think that's good for the long term. And China itself now is projecting a country or a jurisdiction that is promoting globalization, something that is very foreign if you go back to early 90s, where the, through Washington consensus, the US was actually promoting globalization. Fast forward, that narrative has completely changed now. With Trump in the picture, where deglobalization seems to be their mantra at the moment. Okay, but this year I think the outlook is quite challenging. I think if you look at the forecast made by the IMF, the US economy is still growing at 2%, but at a slowing trajectory for 2026. This year about 2.7. But I think for UK, Eurozone, they are quite very in the underperforming trajectory. But China, I think gone are the days we saw that 5% growth is going to be stabilizing around sub 5% growth. And but still, trajectory-wise, the ASEAN region is way much better compared to the G7 economies. So this is where I think the opportunities lies, where I think China is trying to project itself being the global players, being the one who has been tried to promote rules-based economics, so to speak. I mean, they have been talking about how they would resort to WTO, World Trade Organization, as means to address all those imbalances. So that's the image that they want to project. Yeah. But the key issue now is obviously inflation. Inflation is trending down, but the percentage that inflation continues to above than what is projecting is high. So this creates a dilemma, especially for the monetary policy makers. So it kind of gives you the impression that stagflation economics becomes more prevalent now. So this gives rise to challenges how the interest rate will actually to behave going forward, how the global risk premium would actually behave, and how the businesses would actually responding to. And so far from World Bank and IMF assessment, downside risk actually far outweigh the upside risk. So this is the world that we live at the moment. Okay, this is another point to note that the uncertainties is rising. It is something that we need to embrace, and this will shape how capital can be allocated, right? Okay, in terms of Trump, okay, I think the immediate concern now is Trump and how their policies will shape the global economy. In so far, the import tariff measures, the deglobalization measures, is meant to bring in more businesses to the US, but that's not. If you can look at in terms of the trade deficit in the US, it's growing, it's widening. Last year, they've recorded 1.2 trillion of trade deficits compared to 870 billion deficits in 2018. So it goes to show that policies on tariffs is not going to happen in terms of bringing back to more business in the US. But still, they have been pursuing for that. And now I think under Trump 2.0, the dynamic is very different. Perhaps Dr. Azmi would have more say on that. But the way I see it, we have now Elon Musk become the second person, de facto vice president, the way I see it. So that will actually shape how this policy making, how the growth trajectory will evolve going forward. But this is the direction that the present administration has been taking on at the moment. Well, in terms of Malaysia, coming back to Malaysia, I think despite all these challenges, Malaysia has been performing quite favorably last year. In the past 2 years, I would say. I mean, if you look at our economic growth, last year we grew at 5.1%, and our inflation rates has been moderating to 1.8% last year. And this goes to show the Bank Negara has done a very good job. I mean, if you look at their OPR has actually increased from 1.75%, which is all-time low, to 3% in 2023. And it has resulted in a moderating inflation. That would actually provide some space for fiscal policies, the federal government to actually enact reforms in terms of the fiscal positions. And last year, the federal government was able to reduce the budget gap, fiscal deficits to 79 billion last year, versus their target of 84 billion. And in terms of fiscal deficit GDP ratio, it has gone down from 4.3%, the earlier estimates. Now it's about 4.1%. And that resonates pretty much well with the recent statements by Moody's rating, where they have reaffirmed our sovereign rating at A3 with stable outlook. So I think in Malaysian context, while we are facing these challenges, the macroeconomic backdrops provides a nice a pathway for every state in Malaysia to grow. And going into uh, Johor, I think yes, I think KK did mention about Johor contribution to the Malaysian economy is the third largest, 9.5% of GDP. But the issue that I have with that is that if you look at the growth trajectory between Johor and Malaysia, the coefficient of correlation is about 94%. It's very close. It's like one-to-one correlationship. Um, I liken the situation like you are a fund manager. If you want to beat the market, you need to pursue this strategy of active management, which is to beat your benchmark. So your benchmark is Malaysian economy, but since you are highly correlated at 94%, you need to find ways so that your correlation can be reduced. Meaning to say, you should be able to grow much higher than from the country's level. So I think that's the for a start for perhaps Johor economy to consider. But yeah, other than that, I think Johor economy promise a lot of promising prospects given the current administration now, especially in regards to okay, these are the evidence lah. I think if you look at our Port Tanjung Pelepas port in terms of their ranking, global ranking, it's like the 5th ranking in terms of efficiencies. Yeah, it's well recognized. And then in terms of robust transport network, I think this is key infrastructure to promote economic growth in Johor. And of course, data centers is the talk of the town lah, has been flourishing. And I think it's only right to talk about Johor-Singapore Special Economic Zone, which can be another catalyst that will shape the Johor economy this year and forward. Okay, perhaps when we talk about JS-SEZ, we can't run away to look at the template. What is it that we map against in terms of the past history or the past success? Obviously, Shenzhen Special Economic Zone is always being touted as the template, as a template. But the only thing that I have with this situation is that perhaps the differentiating factor is the degree of autonomy accorded to Shenzhen. In this regard, I like to listen to Professor K. Eugene. He's the associate professor in London School of Economics. Last year, she wrote a book about the China New Playbook, Beyond Socialism and Capitalism. She talked about in China the main distinct feature, which is in terms of politics, they are very centralized. But in terms of economics, they are very decentralized. And in China, they have this system, obviously, the mayor system. And this mayor system is not elected, they are being appointed. And their motivation is to do more efficient and to showcase their strength in terms of developing their own provinces. And that's how they up the rank within the CCP. So that's perhaps, I'm not saying we should be China, no. Get me wrong. But I'm telling you about decentralization mode. The degree of autonomy should be accorded to, I don't know, perhaps any GLC within Johor economic sphere lah. But it works in terms of decentralization. I think in a Malaysian context, if you look at what happened in Sarawak, of course in Johor and other states as well, they are looking for more decentralization mode at the moment. So perhaps this could be a game changer, perhaps a moment for Malaysian economy, how we should develop states. And decentralization perhaps is the way to go. And okay, this is my last slide. So I think my point, my key message, I'm very hopeful that the Malaysian economy will thrive despite all these challenges. And I think while we are seeing these concerns over Trump 2.0 policies, I think the government has been proactive to mitigate the risk. And I think we have signed more FTAs now We have signed with UK, we have signed with UAE, and now we are uh, renegotiating with the EU. Perhaps this open up more opportunities, and I think it's only right to see from the positive light lah, despite all these challenges. So with that, I think I conclude my presentation and pass to the next. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nizam. Gentlemen, the reason why I'm here, because me and Dr. Razman, we were quite worried because we're afraid that the existence of us is interrupting your view on the screen. So being proactive, Dr. Razman will be here, I'll be here, and you may maintain that. All right? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, in our first discussion, remove it? All right, sure. Ladies and gentlemen, last year we had our first discussion in Shah Alam, and what make our discussion unique is that when we talk about economy, we not talk about economy per se, because when we talk about economy, it must include also the political situation of the world and also of the country. That's why we have Dr. Azmi here. And I remember last year there were a lot of forecasts regarding for the congregation of Trump. Some of them did happen, some of them on the way towards happening, and some of them may not happen. So, without further ado, let us get into the political situation of the world, especially Trump being the president of the United States of America, and how much does it affect the economic situation, especially in Johor and also in Malaysia. So, Dr. Azmi, the floor is yours. Please give a round of applause. Dr. Azmi.
Thank you. I mean, he cannot claim he's a Bangsa Jew, but I can claim.
Are you Johor?
Yes, I vote in Dot Pelik and also in Parliament Pulai.
Okay, fine.
Bangsa Johor. I've been
Correct.
in Johor, exactly Taman Puling, for 15 years.
So,
It's quite a long time, but every time I drop by in Johor, I have to use my Google Map or Waze because I will get lost. Because development is so fast that you need somebody to help you in this case. And Dr. Nizam, I'm going to talk about Trump. I'm going to talk about Lawrence Wong. That's more interesting. Lawrence Wong is citizen in this case. So can I have my first slide, please? Yeah, talking about SEZ, the Special Economic Zone. Dr. Nizam mentioned Shenzhen just now. I think SEZ Johor-Singapore is the first of the kind. Why? Because it combines two nations. Shenzhen, yes, they have China and also, say, Hong Kong, but both are the same. So in this case, I guess, Malaysia, Thailand, we have our joint development area and also Santara coming up, but that's not SEZ. Basically, what Johor Singapore has mentioned just now, Shenzhen is part of the southern China plus Hong Kong. And these two, I would say, they are the same nation, controlled by Beijing. But Johor Singapore SEZ is two different entities. That's the reason I said it's more interesting to talk about Lawrence Wong. Because the thinking of Lawrence Wong, the thinking of Siang Lung before this, maybe there is some problem with our SEZ. I don't know. I'm not an economist. Dr. Sam is economist, Razman is economist. I'm not. But I'm thinking.
and so do I.
Yes, correct, correct. All smiles when the announcement of Johor, Singapore, SEZ, all smile. But if you go back 15 years before that, why they don't agree with Jabatan Bangkok? Because the strategy of our leaders at that time, when we want to build the Kolkata Bridge, is to make the flow, the, you know, about climate issue. But Singapore, Cheng Lung at that time, tell their citizen, no, it is about our sovereignty. Because if you build the Kolkata Bridge, then you need to dismantle the Tambak Johor. Tambak Johor has the water. the pipe water. So thinking is different from what we think and from what they think on the same issue. So I'm just puzzled. Why is Singapore so happy with the SEZ? Is there something that is a win-win situation? Correct, win-win situation. But who will win more? Look at the HSR. 95% of the tracks on Malaysia, only 5% is in Singapore. Who will win more in this case? I think I think that's the question here. And I'm happy when Dr. Said mentioned about cerebrum. I think introduce a think tank and do. I think need a think tank to advise, especially concerning when we talk with Singapore, we need something that far away thinking about it because Singapore is their leaders quite different. So in this particular case, I'm going to be provocative. That's the reason I mentioned just now. Previously, I was a professor. Right now, I'm not because I'm retired. When you are retired, you can say whatever. No, honestly, you can say whatever you want. That's the reason after retirement, FMT, Malaysia Kini, BFM Radio, they have called me. Not when I was in the UTM, they never called me. They never called us.
Doctor, welcome to the reality.
But again, yeah, as I mentioned, Amin is a special guy, so, but I'm not an economist. I'm talking about economic growth, future growth. But again, I'm happy to be the sore thumb here because 2 days ago, I was at the town hall right here. All four of them are lawyers, except talking about the addendum whether to get or not to get. I'm bringing a new perspective. Nizam has his perspective. Um, Ahmad also has his own. Now, I mean, why Muamalat called me? We are talking about economic here. In 1990s, early 90s, during the presidential campaign, Bill Clinton and George Bush at that time, Ross Perot, middle term that gained attention is economist. That's the term, very famous term. But right now, it's not the economy, it's geopolitics. Because under Trump administration, he mixed up economy and geo. So we need to get ready about this. And just about me, in 2003, the foreign minister, Professor Jayakumar at that time, Parliament, there's a answer called Azmi Hassan is a warmonger. I'm very proud of it. Yeah, he said Azmi Hassan is a warmonger in Parliament. Why? Mostly because of this particular thing. I did articles for Bulgarian, Malaysia, a very, very sensitive article that they don't like, especially on the, especially, oh, no wonder, seems to be quiet, just, especially on the water issues, also on defense issues. But again, last year, I was called by CGTN Beijing. CGTN is Beijing-based media, similar to BBC, CNN. I talk about their Communist Party convention. Not once, but twice. They call me. They seem to be like of me. But again, if you hear the conversation, if somebody did not know me, they will tell that guy in the colorful shirt is very, very communist. I talk. When you are in CGD and Beijing, you have to be pro-China. And happen to be, yes, I am pro-China and anti-United States. That's the reality. That's the reality. But again, my real expertise, I'm not a social scientist. I'm not an economist like Dr. Nizam. I'm an engineer. And my expertise is GPS satellites. You use every day in Waze and Google Maps. You need GPS satellite to give you your location, but that's not why I'm interested. My PhD designation is about the smart bombs, smart missiles. navigate. Yes, I have the I would say the pattern for it, and that's my PhD dissertation. But nobody interested to hear I'm talking about it. It's only 2 times that I need to divulge myself. I'm a GPS satellite during MH370 and during MH17. Especially during MH370, I was hopping from one channel to another channel. And my wife, she heard back there, if she want to know where I am, just click TV channel. No, it's my expertise. But why I talk about geopolitics or regional politics is that PK senang sikit nak cari makan. Kalau cakap politik. But again, I think when we handle with Singapore, you need to be very, very critical. If I show this slide, we knew that last year or in 2020, we came to know that 16 jet fighters from China nearly encroaching our airspace. How do we know that? Because I have a small talk with the PAT at that time, Tan Sri Afandi. He said that if he informed Wisma Putra, most probably we'll never know. We'll never know. Because Wisma Putra will take action that do not want to hurt Beijing. So most probably we won't know. So how we come to know about it is that he, Tan Sri Panglima PAT, posted this particular issue in the TUDM Facebook. That's how we came to know about it. Sometimes you need to think the other way around and take some, I would say, risk in this case. And Tan Sri said, I have another few months before I retire, so I don't mind. I don't care. He think at that time that's the correct way to do that. I'm sure if he informs Wisma Putra, there won't be any news about it. Another thing is that what you hear in the media in front is something totally different. You heard what's really happening. I'm sure this is a Dubai fiasco. At that particular time, Tan Sri, I forgot our prime minister. What was it? Ismail Sabri was the prime minister. When that he went to Dubai, something happened. Two of our diplomats called from Dubai to Kuala Lumpur, and I asked DCP right now, he's a DCP Izani, what really happened? I'm not going to tell you, I'm not going to divulge you here, but he told me that what we read in the media is totally different what happened. Yeah. And a few weeks after that, ACP Izani tendered his resignation as the ADC for the Prime Minister. So you need to think beyond that. Don't believe whatever you heard in the media. And of course, I said before this, Singapore citizen is kind of weird, very odd. I think Malaysians too are very odd. We know that they are boycotting KFC, and I'm not sure. There are news that 100 plus KFC branches has been closed down or temporarily closed. Why Malaysian boycott KFC is because of the what's happening in Gaza. But they boycott it because they have an alternative. And recently, we know that Elon Musk is very close to Netanyahu. Why there are no noise to boycott X? Because they don't have any alternative. So you need some psycho here. When you are dealing with Malaysian, somehow or other you need some psycho perang saraf, gerak saraf. More so when you are dealing with Singaporeans, I think we also need that kind. I think cerebrum, I think is a correct outfit here. You know, as I mentioned, the Kulkut Bridge just now, we use uh, the justification so that the water flow can be more freely flow. But for Singapore, they said no, you cannot dismantle the Tambak Johor because that is our sovereignty. Johor, the pipe. That's how their leaders, psyche their citizens. Similar with the water agreements that will end in 2061. Singaporeans said no, we don't want any discussion because there's the international agreement. We agreed and it will end 2061. But Datuk Seri Anwar said recently, a few weeks ago, that Lawrence Wong agreed to discuss. That's a good news, but I'm not sure how to go about this particular. And our argument for that, the discussion for the water rate is commercial because it's not fair. 3 cents per 1,000 gallons, it's not fair. That's our argument. But Singaporean, they see it differently. They see it that their sovereignty according to the international law. That's how each leadership of Malaysia and Singapore psyche their citizens facing issues between Singapore and so Malaysia. And recently, Republic of Singapore Air Force, they make a big issue of airdrops in Gaza. And they said Malaysia doesn't do any airdrops. We did it. This is psyche that they are more better than us when concerning with Gaza in this case. But there are reasons to it. Why did we did not do the airdrop is that you need the permission of the Israeli. And we don't talk with Israeli. I think that's the main reason why we don't do any airdrops in Gaza. And so Singapore, this psychic, their citizen is very good. Last year, before the 58 Singapore Day, in their media, there's a story about their jet fighters, F-16, intercept Malaysia helicopter because of encroaching the Changi airport airspace. Actually, this is nothing, a story of nothing, a very mundane story, something that are very, I would say, very lazim, always occurred. But in order to psychic their people, in the incoming 58th birthday Singapore Day, they made up this story. The Singapore and the helicopter is from Malaysia. That's how they psychic up their people in facing Malaysia. And I think that's the reason. Their defense budget is 5 to 6% of their GDP. Us never go beyond 1.2. And the Singaporean, their people never question their leadership. Why you spend so much? Never question. Because the psychic is there. Remember, you are surrounded by Nusantara. I think that's the reason why B.J. Habibie, late president of Indonesia, called Singapore is just a little red dot encircled by bigger Nusantara. That's how, especially from the late Lee Kuan Yew, Goh Chok Tong, Siang Lung, and now Lawrence Wong, psychic their people. And this, I think, Johor being the part of the special economic zone, you need to deal with this kind of leadership, or not this kind of leadership, but that kind of leadership that really totally different from our leadership. There's a reason. Same issue, totally two angles. So we need to know about their things. And as I mentioned, B.J. Habibie accused Singapore as a little red dot, but they use this humiliation to prop up their patriotic, and this is part of their primary school syllabus, the little red dot. That's how they turn around Singapore. And Jocelyn Chia kutuk Malaysia sikit, kita pun dah koyak. Padahal ini Jocelyn Chia only. So I think this is something that we have a special relationship with Johor. And we need to understand traits of leadership. And I use the example from Nizam, not to talk about Trump, but to show the difference between Obama, Biden, and Trump. When they are posting something about a certain operation, Operation Neptune Spear is an operation to kill Osama bin Laden, thank you. And you see the picture is that something that are not, I would say, arranged. It's not pre-arranged, something that are gathered at that time. But Biden and also Trump, it is a PR job, even though it's a very important operation to kill somebody. So in this case, it shows the traits what the leaders want. And more importantly, Lawrence Wong, he's the alumni of University of Wisconsin-Madison, 96. I was there in Wisconsin-Madison, but different school. Lawrence Wong is a school of business. I'm in an engineering school. But at that time, I was the Tok Pengulu for Malaysian students. Being the oldest, I think I'm the oldest there, and and have a family, so I'm the Tok Pengulu. And I still remember there was only 3 Singaporeans at that time. I'm sure I've met Lawrence Wong, being the Tok Pengulu, because when we do our international day, Singapore, Malaysia will be there. So one thing for sure is that Datuk Syed, the alumni of Wisconsin, Madison especially, they are very critical. And maybe I got application from them. 8 years, basically, from a master's and PhD, traits me how to think. What I'm trying to tell the side is that Lawrence Wong, being an alumnus of Wisconsin, maybe he had the same thinking, very critical thinking, very sarcastic thinking. You never know. But my intention in the first 15 minutes here is that at the side, when we deal with Singapore, we got to be very, very careful. Uh, Tuan Haji, don't depend much on the Putrajaya. Well, I was quite upset that Menteri Besar was not here. No, I think some say that Sarawak is the best leadership in terms of taking care of their people. But I think Sarawak, they copied from Johor. I think Johor leadership needs to be more. Yeah, you're part of the government, you're part of UMNO, yes, true, but somehow you need to, take care of the Bangsa Johor because you have a great opportunity here, especially SEZ, a great opportunity. It's a win-win situation, but I want to see the win on the Johor part is 60%, 70%. And we have to divide, we have to know more deeper why Singaporeans are okay with SEZ. I'm sure the state government know that. I'm hoping that the federal government did not, I think, divulge everything. That's what I'm hoping for. And of course, that's the reason, again, I'm being called the warmonger because I like to provoke, especially when it involves Singapore. And when I say I'm close to Singapore, to Johor, I mean I'm also close to Singapore. I have a lot of relatives there. And the first minister for Malay under Lee Kuan Yew was my tok saudara, orang Kelantan, Datuk Muhammad Yaakob. He was first Malay minister. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Azmi, the warmonger, and the GPS specialist. MashaAllah. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Azmi and Dr. Abdul Nizam had presented their ideas. So you may have your question, and we will display our QR code for you to post your question, inshallah. So if there's any question you may ask, and definitely you may ask also in Bahasa Malaysia, because in this program we do practice campurization language. You may ask in English, also in Bahasa Malaysia, inshallah. All right. We have talked about the economics in general, talk about the geopolitics. So let's talk about Johor. Will Johor have their own Malaysia? Will Johor have their own airlines? Who knows? May Johor have their own petrol company like Sarawak? I don't know. So please welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Please give our hand to Dr. Ahmad Rasman. Please welcome.
Terima kasih Saudara Amin. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Um, Maybe I can say my only claim to Johor is my wife was born in Kota Tinggi. My first wife and only.
You're lucky, doctor.
And her father is quite close to the late home, Sultan Dar. But some of the story probably never told again. Okay. And Dr. Hafzan Nizam has been talking about the probably on the global level, Trump and Tasmin talking about Singapore, where I used to study also there, TU, Nanyang University. And now, probably I want to bring us closer to Johor itself. Of course, we know that Malaysia economy has been growing and we have been having a positive growth the past 15 quarters, which is a good thing. Although if you can see, this hasn't taken into the latest announcement of 5.1% growth last year, but again, it's all positive. And if you look at Johor, what we have seen, it's been tremendous for the past 2-3 years or so. We have the revitalized forest city, which also going to be further enhanced by the current prospect of JS-SEZ, 100 projects within 10 years, with um, prospect of about 20,000 skilled jobs created. The keyword here is the skilled jobs. And of course, we're talking about the HSR that's also has been um, going to probably implement again, like what Dr. Azmi said, 5% covered by Singapore rail track, 95% Malaysia. I was invited by HSR Corp last time when they were deciding, government deciding whether to agreement or not, and the issues highlighted. One of the issues highlighted during that discussion was the control. Um, Tasmi mentioned about Singapore always sitting on sovereignty, but imagine having control over our own sovereignty in terms of rail track when you only manage 5%, but you have a control over the remaining of the track. So that's one of the contentious issue. Something that probably we also need to be consider. This is happening again. Uh, the new asset code for the HSR, how Singapore government the that company, whether they will have a say or whether they have some form of control in that. So um, again, we want a country to prosper. We want state to, like what the president said, to go beyond, not just simply following the trajectory of the country, but more than that. But at what cost? So let's look um, the population of this staff. This is the latest, I think, statistic by DOSM showing the unemployment and as well as the total labor force country and also by state. We have been doing well since the pandemic. The unemployment rate has gone down to 3.1%, which is a good thing. And we're talking about the labor participation. The country has most labor force so far. And when looking at Johor, has the fifth highest labor participation rate. I think in regards to the economic prosperity among the states, we can say there are four lah. Selangor, KL, Johor, Penang. And we were talking about the labor participation in line with that kind of prospect where it has the fifth highest labor and fourth lowest unemployment rate. But one thing that this statistic didn't tell rest of us, because just the status of being employed. Like kita kata lah, okay, you have a job, but this is not really the job you want. You have a choice and you have business. Well, statistics do say that we are suffering from um, mismatch, underemployment, where I think about 40% of the belia actually working not matching with what the academic qualification that they have. Okay, they have degree, but they have to jual pisang. So this is something that has yet to be talked out in the open. We are proud to have a high employment rate, but the mismatch of job is something that we need to consider, and this affecting all states. The statistics is not there yet, but hopefully there will be more in details. And in talking about employment, of course, we want to know how much we are earning. I think um, at the moment, the median keep changing, but at the moment, I think Dr. Fizan, 2,800 median wage around that time, around that figure. So imagine we have 17 million labor. The median means right in the middle is 2,800, meaning that 7 or 8 million plus is actually having salary of 2008 and below. Okay, so for Johor it's not bad. You have the fourth highest. Okay, of course, KL is the highest, but this is the individual. So we're talking about those who working formal sector, and agak tu nampak situ, tapi apa 2,700 2,700 2,700 something like that, which is just the average. And but we cannot simply look at our wages without looking at the expenditure. There's no point having a high salary when expenses actually far outweigh what you are getting. So somehow it correlate, meaning that you have high wages, but you also have the, among the highest household expenditure. And that's probably because we are close to Singapore. When Singapore coming in to spend, they have, of course, higher purchasing power, and this drives up the cost of living. Everything becomes expensive. And if you look at Johor, it's 5,342. This is household. Okay, we're talking about isi rumah. So imagine if you have um, 2,000, sorry, in March, the median wage for Johorian is about 2,582. So kalau dua-dua bekerja, if both are working in the household, let's say they're having this average, so it's about 5,000 plus, but still slightly below than what they normally have to spend. Okay, but of course we're talking the average. Some household more, some not, but this is the reality. Actually, the reality is not in Johor, but in other state. Imagine KL 7,800, Selangor, where I live now, 6,000, and Putrajaya, of course, the highest. So, so when we're talking about median, it it marks the reality, okay, across the income group that some is actually uh, still struggling, even though um, we still have this classification of B40, M40, T20. M40 actually is not so doing well because if especially if they live in the urban area, like in KL, PJ, Penang, Selangor, and Johor. So when we're talking about reality, what we don't want to see when we have economic prosperity for the past 13 quarters, Malaysia has been experiencing highest or positive growth. Surely the rakyat should be prosper. So how come people keep saying, you know, high cost of living, you know, um, still couldn't get the job that they want? This is the reality that we need to address. We don't want when we talk about state prosperity, it's not the people, but it's the multinational company, it's the T20. We want to reduce what the economists always say, the Gini coefficient, inequality among the people. Something interesting happened after pandemic. The wealthy managed to recover fast because they have to generate back the income. The poor didn't have the asset. The sales of BMW and Mercedes has gone faster and pre-pandemic. Okay, some say private helicopter, but I just couldn't get the data. Okay. your helicopter. Yeah. So because of that, when we're talking about the asset, how about the price of the house, Johor? So the latest in the first quarter 2024, I think this is the latest I can find. It's a bit expensive, okay, for the Johorian. It's above the average, just behind. Yeah, the sub sale also see when you want to sell back the house. So this is the reality. Okay, we want to be champion in certain thing in terms of highest employment, highest salary. But for this, we also need to address the fact. But of course, some people say when we have this JS-SEZ with high demand for working here, probably we can address this issue. But in what way? So at the moment, the price of the house is a bit slightly above the national average. And somehow, the reality is that because become expensive, so you cannot able to sell it. But what I heard now, Johor probably with the higher demand, you manage to sell it. But who actually will buy these unsold properties? Okay, is it the Johor people or the Nazim visitor? I was invited as a moderator last year for the Johor Smart City Convention. So it is a very bold strategy to to make sure people can live in a city that can support their well-being. So it's very important. Okay, keyword here the well-being, sustainability, but we also want people to be able to afford this one. So therefore, when I look into the situation, of course, like saya cakap, it's not just think, it's not just to talk, but it's to act. In what way? Okay, and these are some of the things that we can actually implement. Johor can be the leading game changer. There are few innovative action that can still be taken. We don't have to follow same tested try method. That's why Johor sama dengan Malaysia. Do something as different. In what way? So basically, when we are attracting the investment, there's a need to have transform traditional know-how. The recent or the previous Global Innovation Index (GII), Malaysia for the past 3 years have maintained the same rank, 56. We are not improving. But when you go details into the ranking, we found out that we have been importing innovation. So the innovation input is actually been increasing. However, innovation output is lacking. So we have been importing, but we do not know how to transform it into a product, a new product, a new knowledge. So this is something that needs to be addressed. It's not just simply, buying patent or getting the technical know-how, but how we can make it into the new product, new innovator. We don't want to be a nation of consumer, but nation of producer. And there are many opportunity. We have Pengerang. Petronas used to drill and sell not much on the byproduct itself, but we have the new energy, the rare earth elements, where we can have it anywhere in every place in Neng, I think. But we don't want simply to extract and sell. We want to extract and transform it into higher value-added product. I was in the consultation with Academic Malaysia looking at the business model for rare earth element. We're looking into the upstream to downstream, and actually once you upgrade or update the process, you can get sometime up to 7 times, 17 time multiplier. Okay, so this is something that we need to look into it into. And of course, prioritizing local talents over expatriates. When JS-SEZ aimed to create 20,000 skilled jobs, it should be skilled jobs among Johorians. Variety must be there. Okay, and because those investors, because Singapore is the largest uh, contributor of DI. They want to invest to Johor. What kind of demand they want? They're going to bring expatriate or their people from Singapore coming to Johor. So what are we getting from that? When we are not nurturing the talent of the local people, and of course, it's a high-paying job creation. I'm talking about the mismatch. And just like HSR, we want to make sure decision-making power still lies with the local authority and government agencies. Dr. Abdul talking about decentralization. Okay, so this is something that possibly, with the current geopolitical situation, like what Dr. Azmi said, maybe some of the states have greater power than others. Some states are more equal than others. So you might want to think about that. Okay, and of course, like what we have here with Bank Muamalat, they are all in the business of financing, financial empowerment. Perhaps there is a way to explore the high cost of buying the houses. Perhaps looking into alternative home financing such as musyarakah mutakasah concept, the rent to own, that can fit into current scenario. There are many models that can be explored, or perhaps the local authority introduce a council home concept like what happened in the European. That would also contribute the annual income and something that can be implemented just really like uh, in the immediate time. So this is something, okay, yang the cerebrium could also look at while achieving for the state prosperity. When all these opportunities are going to come in, don't forget the real assets of any state, which is people, including my first and only wife. Okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Azman. Quite frequent you mentioned about your first wife. Anything to clarify? Nothing. Thank you, Dr. Azman. All right, ladies and gentlemen, members of the floor, let us proceed with our question and answer. The first question to Dr. Afzanizam. Sorry, Doctor. Um, you were mentioned about economics. There are negatives, there are positives. There are increase and there are also decrease. The main question is that to what extent does it benefit people at large, especially those small businesses, young graduates, youngsters? Please, Dr. Nizam.
Okay, I think when you talk about small businesses, I always talk about this. Um, that Malaysians like to spend. The reason I'm saying is that it's based on this marginal propensity to consume. In Malaysia, we are like among the highest in this region, around 50%, 0.6. It means that every 1 ringgit rise in your income would translate into 50 cents worth of spending. So it means that Singapore is 1.3, by the way. Philippines quite high, 0.7. Indonesia around 0.5. Ours is 0.6. So it means it goes to show that the final demand is there. Appetite to spend is there. So when you go into a business, like what Cik Keke said, when he said that when people do business, it's like macam substitution. Tak ada kerja, buat business. That's very suboptimal. It means that kalau betul-betul you not go into business, it means that the capacity building journey has to be right. First, we have to acknowledge that entrepreneur is a different breed, right? It's not like macam mentality, taking salary, it's different. So I think we need to recognize that. So if you want to go really serious about building an entrepreneur ecosystem, the right mindset has to be there. The capacity building plans or executions has to align to that narratives and directions so that this entrepreneur would have the drive, to sell more, and innovate. And this is where I think then the policymakers will come in through perhaps microfinancing, training, and whatnot. But before that, I think we need to recognize that the 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 right mindset to become not just institutions. Because I couldn't find a job, then I'll do business. I think we need to recognize that. So if you do that right, I think we can thrive. These SMEs can thrive actually. We have a population of 33 million, 16 million labor force, and we are in a full employment status. I think the appetite to spend is there, and I think whatever you sell can sell. But to sell, I think you need to do it yourself. You need to have a strategy. You need to proper marketing plans and whatnot. So that's my take.
All right, thank you, Dr. Nizam. I think the next question is a continuance for this question, Dr. Azman, because you were talking about using local talents. Uh, there are complaints among the employer, including big companies, small companies, regarding the, call it as strawberry generation. Let's face it, ladies and gentlemen, um, the employee nowadays marah sikit meraju, kan? Go sikit resign, lompat company, so on and so forth. So by the end of the day, rather than using local talent, baik guna Bangla. Oh, so what's your take on that?
Yes, we also explained that 24 hours resignation. Just they don't like the
24 hours resignation.
the office. So it's a what do you call it? Millennials.
Millennials, strawberry
Alpha, Gen
generation,
Alpha.
Gen Alpha, Gen TikTok, so on and so forth.
Okay. I think we cannot blame them uh, entirely due to the fact that the world is changing.
Correct.
The, the, the culture now is even the technology itself actually has made them very less attentive. Some said the attention span of teenager is less than goldfish. So yeah, so you can play more with goldfish than your own teenager. I have 5 kids, I know. So so because of that, there must be a middle ground meeting their needs. They want flexibility. I think some countries have introduced staff or nomad, for example, meaning you don't have to come to work. We do have changes in Employment Act where the employer can give flexibility in terms of uh, uh, time of working, days of working, or physical aspect of it. And many large corporations have also incorporated into that. Telecom Malaysia, TMB, they have changing their office space into co-working space. I visited with my student to Agoda. And I asked
Yeah.
how many workers they have. I think they have 1,000 plus. Then, but I didn't see many seats or chairs. And they said, well, the distance. You don't spend.
They don't stay at the office.
Yes. So all this, and of course, they have so many facilities. Ogawa, massage chair, facing KLCC. So,
Is there any Ogawa in Jacob building?
yeah.
All right.
Okay. So that's the trend.
Do you receive any resume from me?
So we have to understand, okay, and especially when we look at the situation, many corporations insist on hiring low skilled workers or foreigners because of course there, there must be some uh, aspect of cheaper alternative. We're talking about some that require mechanical or production activities. But we're talking about services. We are our main sector contributing the growth actually the services sector. So we're talking about services. We're talking about human talent, and when we're talking about human talent, the greatest contribution that our local talent can give is actually they can contribute to the long-term growth of an organization and company. It's very expensive actually to keep replacing talent again and again. Petronas also experienced this. The what do you call it? Tacit knowledge. When we do business, It's not just simply following SOP. Human connection, how you get know people, networking is very important as well. So when talking about understanding the local context, culture, we still need to nurture our young people. We cannot let go of them. We don't want to become like Japan. They are Asian nation, and now they had to import people to come working for them. So because of that, when we're talking about the replacement rate, the fatality, we have gone down. 1.7 ke 1.9? 1.7 kan of per household.
It's decreasing, is it?
Increasing when the replacement rate is 2.1. That's why I have 5 kids to help the nation.
So you contribute a lot.
um,
You know, you know. You don't know, you don't know, huh?
so because of that, I believe all the challenges we have to tackle those challenges head on. Our local people, our youngsters, they are the future, and no matter what, we need to retain them. We need to, make sure they contribute and stay with us within our own organization.
Thank you, Dr. Razman. So will there be any additional kids later on? From 5 to 6, maybe?
Itu kedai lah.
Or new factory? No, right? All right. Dr. Azmi, there's a question from the audience. Would Malaysia be the radar of Trump for tariff imposition since Malaysia holds sizable China investment? What's your comment on that?
Not for the time being. Why I'm saying that? Because during the inquiry, Defense Minister Pete Sagat, one of the questions is that, can you name one ASEAN member? He cannot name it. And he's a defense secretary.
You don't
cannot
know or
name it.
what?
He has no idea. He's never heard of ASEAN.
Oh my God.
He was mumbling about South Korea, AUKUS, Japan. So if you look at Trump's cabinet, it's what the yes man. So if the defense minister doesn't know about ASEAN, so most probably, for the time being, Malaysia is not under Trump's radar. No, I don't
So
think
it's
so.
a good problem, is it?
It's a good thing. It's a good thing. Dr. Nizam said that the trade surplus just now, that's not a good thing because we have a positive trade surplus with US. So tak lama lagi, will come under Trump's radar.
Sooner or later, is
very
it?
soon. Let me reiterate, during Trump's first era as the 45th president, in March 2020, at that time, we are so obsessed with Sheraton move. Okay, I
Correct.
think remember Sheraton move, the change of government, and at the same time, Trump sent 2 warships into our EEZ. He said that in order to protect Malaysia from keep being bullied by China at that time. This something to do with Petronas oil rig ship. So Trump's strategy, I mean, he's very brutal. And we can foresee that and we can plan for it. And Trump is that he likes to take credit. Pujilah dia. Dia memang suka walaupun pujian itu bukan dia punya. So that's how you deal with Trump. But I think this is way back. But the real interesting part is how do you deal with Lawrence Wong? That is the more interesting part. I think it's good that we have Lawrence Wong because Goh Chok Tong, Sieng Loong has a Lee Kuan Yew baggage behind. Lawrence Wong doesn't have that baggage. So that's easier for us. He is very articulate, similar with Prime Minister. I think that's one of the reasons he said, okay, let's talk the water deal, the rate, water deal 3 cents per 1,000 gallon. He want to talk with Datuk Sri Anwar because Lawrence Wong want to resolve any existing problem in Malaysia. I think that's how you know what Trump's like to do, and we also have to know what Lawrence Wong like to do and how he thinks. I think that's very critical here. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Azmi. All right. Dr. Nizam, there are 2 questions which is quite similar and interrelated, where they ask about, do you see JS as JS-SEZ succeeding? Or will it face challenges like Iskandar Malaysia? In conjunction with another question, does Singapore share the same enthusiasm, or is momentum driven mainly by the federal and Johor state governments, as media reports suggest? Your take on that?
Sure. Actually, I would like to respond to that question by following up what
All right.
Dr. Azmi said.
Interrelated, is it?
Yeah, it's interrelated, especially on Singapore. I think this week Singapore has announced their budget for 2025, and they are targeting a fiscal surplus of 0.9% of GDP. When I look at the details of the budget, there's a lot of cash transfers program, the vouchers for all citizens of Singaporeans. I mean, T20 pun dapat lah. And so cash transfers programs, certain groups of Singaporeans. And there is also subsidies for existing employers to scale up their skill. So when I look at the details, it seems that they are shifting towards more populist measures. And that resonates well with their current political landscape lah. The PAP supports pun dah dwindling, right? So on that note, I think uh, there's more reasons for Singapore to actually work hand in hand with us, Malaysia, to ensure that all investments in JS-SEZ will benefit them. Yeah, because it opens up a lot of doors for Singaporean companies to invest. But I think key point that to take note, I think when I always like to listen KS these days, keluar sekejap. They mentioned about how our arrangement with Singapore, it seems is one-sided lah. It seems that we are the one who are giving a lot of goodies to them in a way. So what what KJ is trying to indicate is that to have a level playing field lah, when it comes to GSSE, which is to me is a key challenge lah. But otherwise, from the political dynamics, the economic current landscape, now and then for Singapore is way different, and the more reason that you need to ensure this GSSE to succeeded lah. That's my take.
All right. Dr. Rosman, um, there's a question regarding to what extent the rivalry between US and China gives benefit to Malaysia. What's your comment?
It's supposed to be Dr. Azmi. But
Any comment before we go to Dr. Azmi?
yeah, perhaps maybe Dr. Azmi can correct me. Last time we have this what called Malacca dilemma, okay, where China rivalry or China dependency on the trade cross along the Straits Malacca, especially on the oil and gas. But things I think still developing with the Genting Kra Thailand decision whether to connect port from both sides. But when we're talking about US and China, China has 3,000 years of civilization. They used to be one of the largest nation with the highest GDP compared to India at the time. So we're talking about 3,000 years of civilization against 300 years experience of country. And whatever they do is always long term, okay? And the approach also different. China never invaded any country. US still invading many countries, okay? But China, their strategy is more economic when they have this Silk Belt Road initiative, where threat is through their economic or funding. We have seen the situation where Sri Lanka last time had to let go, I think 15,000 acres of their land because they cannot unable to pay for debt incurred when they build the port, seaport. We could explain the same thing. Cannot pay our ECRL debt. Imagine no ship berthing at the Kuantan port. There's no goods to be transported to Port Klang. So we could explain the same thing. So when talking about US and China, Okay, so how we going to deal with this? I think some people did mention about some culture diplomacy when the two giants we are in the middle. So I think this is what we've been doing. We are non-aligned movement. Economic wise, we are partners for every international unilateral trade agreement like RCEP, CPTPP, and the latest BRICS. So political wise, we don't interfere, but economic, we are partners. That's why US, China among the top three trading partners for us. So I guess when these two are in fighting in terms of tariff war, we will be affected. But last time we managed to find opportunity. We become the middleman, meaning those companies from US or China, when they want to trade with each other, we become the transit for them. I don't know whether the strategy can uh, uh, be the same again. But the good thing about us, we are very flexible. Okay, so we don't have legacy in terms of administration. Although when we're talking about Sri Anwar as a PMS, he used to be the um, finance minister back in the 90s. But when we're looking into the situation right now, it's very what we call volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. And we have learned the lesson since the pandemic. Economic wise, we know how to be more resilient and sustainable. So that's why I believe everyone is observing it very closely. Trump keeps signing lots of executive orders. Apa paper straw pun kena ban apa semua itu pun dia sign, okay. But I'm sure Wisma Putra is monitoring this, and this is something that I think that Azmi can also elaborate more.
Dr. Azmi, you may add a little bit because we have another question for you. Where what the U.S. sanctions on AI chips hurt the Johor AI data centers trend? So you can add a little bit. And furthermore, another question, Dr. Azmi.
Related to Razman said just now about Malaysia being used as a transit. When the trade war, Chinese company in China, they moved to Malaysia so that they can export their goods to United States without the tariff. And United States is not that dumb. They are not stupid. So they put a tariff on us. Anything, solar panel products, whether made by Chinese company here in Malaysia or by the Malaysian company, will be put tariff. So I think that's the negative part of the transit. And regarding the question about AI chips, recently, I think a month ago, Malaysia was put under the tier 2 category, meaning that if any companies in Malaysia want to import AI chips from NVIDIA, for example, then there's a red flag there. Why? Because the states have the perception that the chips will be used by the Chinese company that are based here. So Johor, which want to be the one of the data centers, will be impacted, will be negatively impacted. So we need that kind of AI chips. And these particular AI chips, which China cannot produce, only United States can produce. So it will be impacted. And as I mentioned before this, Malaysia is still not under US radar. It is basically, it is, but slowly creeping in because of this constraint.
All right. Last question, also for Dr. Azmi. This question is a little bit provocative, but all right, I will still read it. Uh, Whenever Trump became the president in his first tenure, the China said, "Thank you, Mr. Trump," because of his quote unquote stupidity, China becomes stronger. For example, when Elon Musk he announced Tesla EV, electrical vehicle, challenges China to have their own EV, and now China become the number one best EV production in the world. So, what does it mean by "Thank you, Mr. Trump" by China?
Well, one thing for sure is that when Trump tried to close United States, it's an opportunity for China not only in terms of economy, but also in terms of geopolitics. When Trump put a pause on USAID, China jumped that, well, via BRI, Belt Road Initiative, they can help other countries. Well, I don't call Trump stupid, but I would call him sembrono. The American wouldn't understand. If they're American, he or she wouldn't understand yet. His sombrono is that he just pick up his decision right from a thin air. I give you one simple example during a press conference that he said that by this Saturday, meaning last Saturday, 12 o'clock, Hamas must release all hostages. When I saw it carefully during the press conference, he said, Saturday, okay, 12 o'clock is a good time. Meaning they just pick up the idea. So he's sombrono knows.
And
I
his
think
minister know nothing about it.
know nothing about it. So the people around him need to cover up, need to do the justification. I think that's the reason. Don't consider Trump as stupid, but consider him as the somebody who like to be pampered with, who like to be puji-puji. I still remember in 2017, Tan Eng Hock, the CEO of Broadcom, Tan Eng Hock is a Malaysian, one of the biggest electronic company. Broadcom at that time at Singapore. So he went to White House to announce that Broadcom will move from Singapore to California. And he said that during a press conference, Trump was beside him. He said that he wants to thank you, United States, for giving him scholarship during his younger days that he can study in MIT. And when Trump heard that, he made a big smile. Why? It's a puji-pujian to America, puji-pujian to Trump. But that's not the real reason. Why he moved the company from Singapore to California is to take over another big Silicon Valley company, Qualcomm. That's the reason. So that to make things easier. US-based company taking over US-based company, no problem. So that's how you deal with question of stupidity of Trump, as I call it, sombrono of Trump. We can handle that particular part.
Right. Sombronoity of Trump, is it? All right. Since we have no more questions for the audience, so I would like to give an opportunity for every speaker for their. Oh yeah. Oh, other question again. Ron, it's either my internet is slow or my iPad is a problem. Oh, there you go. All right. Oh, all right. Okay. To Dr. Hasbi. Okay. I think yeah, Dr. Nizam first. What is Bank Muamalat forecast on Malaysian interest rate and USD Malaysia ringgit for year 2025? Dr. Nizam, good luck.
Sure, thank you. These are common questions being asked my CEO. I think for our GDP growth for this year, we are looking at 5%. And the primary driver would be coming from investments and consumption, and some help from the external sector. That's one. On OPR, that's key lah. We are looking at a more stable environment for overall policy rate at 3%. And from our engagement with Bank Negara, every now and then they will call up all economists and to them. And from their body language is that they're quite uncertain about policy changes lah. Namely the RON 95 subsidy rationalizations. Because RON 95 account about 5% of our consumer price index. So any change to that price will have a significant impact to the inflation rates. So that actually resonates well with their forecast of inflation for this year, which is around 2% to 3.5% lah. Big gap, that's a big range lah. Indicates the degree of uncertainties on the part of the Bank Negara. So on that note, I think the Bank Negara is trying to strike delicate balance now. On one hand, to ensure that growth will be supported through commodity policies, but at the same time, they pay close attention about the emerging rates of inflation. So from my observation among my colleagues in the bank, generally we are looking at an unchanged of OPR, 3%. If I notice, there's only one, I think, foreign house, Nomura, is calling for a rate hike to 4%, if I'm not mistaken. Sorry, can't remember what the decree, but basically OPR hike. But generally, it's status quo. But yeah, I think this RON 95 is really uh,
Confirm or happening or on the way? Confirm in June, eh?
yeah. It's a question of the mechanism lah. The mechanism, whether it's going to be in the past experience where we saw the RON 95 will be adjusted upward rightly, or there will be some mechanism using our my card and only the top 15% they will pay the market price and the 85% will pay the subsidy price, the tiering pricing mechanism. If that happens, I think the impact to inflation is somewhat limited, I would say. So that mechanism is the main uncertainties lah. But looking at the appetite for economic reforms, especially on fiscal consolidation, is gaining momentum. I mean, it's been reflected, as I said in my earlier speech, that the budget deficit has gone down quite a fair bit, 79 billion, on account of e-invoicing lah, raising the services tax rates from 6% to 8%, introducing the low value goods tax at 10%. I think these are, of course, diesel. So these are ongoing fiscal consolidation, and it has resulted positive outcome. So it's a question of RON 95 now. And of course, beyond RON 95 is the electricity tariff lah.
Right.
Supposed to
TMB. Yes.
ringgit, dollar ringgit.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm looking at year end of 4.3.
4.3.
Why?
Yeah.
One is because OPR is expected to remain unchanged at 3%, and our neighbors, in Singapore, have started to ease their monetary policies in Indonesia, Philippines, in Thailand, in South Korea. They all have actually cut their rates. For us, it's still at 3%, and that indicates the rate differentials will be narrowed lah. And the other thing is to note is that it's actually we still think that the US rates will come down, probably still around 50 basis points in the second half. So again, that could be the main driver, along with political stability and the appetite towards reform. That could actually lure more foreign funds to come.
So 4.3, right?
4.3 by year end.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Nizam. And okay. Okay, another question. Maybe this is for Dr. Azmi. What could be the impact from the government move to liberate the gas supply in Malaysia? And another question, since we talked a lot about Lawrence Wong, what is your proposal, your suggestion of a strategy to deal with Lawrence Wong?
Okay, thank you. Lawrence Wong is not the first choice. He's the second choice to be the Prime Minister because the first choice got some issues, moral problem, has to step down. The closest that we can know how Lawrence Wong works is that during his chairmanship of the COVID-19 committee. Even though some of the measures that he introduced at that time, the Singaporeans are not happy, he just don't care. Because it's based on data and statistics that Lawrence Wong made his decision. Now, if you want to compare any ministers in Malaysia are like that, I have one. YB Rafizi. He is so obsessed with data and statistics. I asked him one question. YB, you are too obsessed with data and statistics. Yes, people like Amin can understand the data and statistics. But you don't explain it into the layman's language. He said he don't care. He cannot wait to explain it to the people. And I'm not a TikTok minister. He did say that. You can quote me, no problem with that. So that's how Lawrence Wong. Yes, he is very articulate, but he's based his decision on data and statistics. And I mean, PMX also are articulate also. Sometimes he like to, wayward. He'll go there, he'll go there. So how to formulate Lawrence Wong is that what you see Rafizi Ramli is what Lawrence Wong is. That's my opinion.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Azmi. Anything to add, Dr. Nizam?
On Singapore,
Yeah.
I think like I mentioned earlier on, I think that the Singapore economics is changing. Right? Perhaps because of the generational gap, and there is the role of information, the social media and whatnot, and there is a need that the government needs to really not be too hawkish about their fiscal policy stand. While they are still announcing fiscal surplus balance in the latest budget, like Andy mentioned earlier on, I think their stance is towards more populist measures. I think because of the upcoming elections, I think end of this year. So, it's a shift that could actually benefits Malaysia, especially in JS-SEZ endeavor.
All right. So I think we are at the end of our discussion. Dr. Razman, upon our discussion, ding dong here, ding dong there, facts and figures, data, idea, proposals, so on and so forth. Back to our topic. What can we conclude? What can we take away upon Johor as a catalyst for Malaysian growth? Dr. Razman, please.
Right. What we need to understand when we talk about Johor as a catalyst for Malaysia growth, the reason why we have been so much citing new development in Johor, especially because of the situation where we have a top-down approach. The people at the top, they want Johor to become successful, to become catalyst, to become the forefront of the economic growth in the country. So this is what top one. So, but it cannot happen. There's no bottom-up approach as well. Support must be there, the ecosystem, and more importantly, people. Country, state is ready, but the people also must be there to help. So what needs to be done is the change of the culture, okay, the mentality. When the Tabs are talking about Shenzhen as a model, we also need to talk about the mentality of the people. Okay, they are highly motivated, highly driven. When we're talking about the potential of Singapore, uh, want to be the winner or more win the Johor. We know their mentality. Okay, they have this kind of what? I don't know whether we can still talk about it. Kiasu. Okay, so mentality. So Johor, perhaps the mentality not necessarily have to be like them, but better. How? When we're talking about the human aspect of it. Okay, PBS, our motto is nurturing human leaders. People keep asking, why do you put the word human there? Why not just nurturing business leaders? Because I said sometimes some leaders they're behaving like animal, you know, backstabbing, So we want to talk about when we want to produce a better manager, better human manager, better CEO, better human CEO. So we're talking about the people to drive the state's agenda forward. We want to also have this human aspect. Everyone move forward together. This is my hope for Joe as a catalyst for the mission.
So it's about humanizing humans. Inshallah. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a round of applause to Dr. Azmi, Dr. Nizam, and Dr. Razman.
I mean,
Yes, Dr. Azmi.
60 seconds.
Yeah, please.
I'm
No problem.
talking as a voter in Tun Pulang and also a voter as a Parliament Pulai. I'm looking at one person only here. I really wish the MB be like Premier Abang Joe. You know, I want to be whatever is doing it for Sarawak. Sarawak. Buy Bakun discount. Maswing also at a discount. Sarawak people felt very happy about it. So I think Johor is.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a round of applause to Bank Muamalat and nevertheless Cerebrum by Johor Corporation. A round of applause, ladies and gentlemen.